For the uninitiated few who have not seen it or don't know about it yet, can you kind of describe briefly, I guess, what it is and what it's become?
It really is a movie that, we made it with such sincerity. I had met Tommy in an acting class, and I really have a thing for aspiring artists that don't get put into a box. They don't see they're not limited by what people tell them. So Tommy believed he was a leading man. He believed he was a Marlon Brando. And so we made this movie, and I was really there to help him and get it made. I didn't think anybody would ever see it. And it's really a movie that you cannot find anywhere else. It's not only a movie experience, if you see it with a crowd, it totally changes your view on cinema and what's possible. But it's a phenomenon that has traveled the world, been around for over 20 years now. Plays in almost every major city, almost monthly, and it just something brings me a lot of joy. I've seen parents bring their teenagers and be like, my son quotes this all the time. He genuinely loves it the way, I loved Back to the Future. So it's been baffling to me to see it grow. But it's very cool to be a part of something that brings people that much joy. And it's a movie, like I said, you can't see it at home. You've got to go to the theater and see it with a crowd.
So, I mean, when I was in high school, I think scenes from the room were kind of like some of the first like viral clips on YouTube. I think like a lot of those clips kind of circulated around like wildfire, especially when I was in school at that time. I mean, people were constantly talking about this movie that like you wouldn't believe it. But like truthfully, I never really saw the movie until like a year ago when you actually came to the
Sure,
Fine Arts
sure.
Center. And reading your book, The Disaster Artist, I kind of actually had this weird parallel to you watching Tommy in his acting class, in your acting class with him. You talk about how when you're sitting in the acting class, you were kind of stressed and down about where you were in your career at the time. And Tommy, for all of his um, grandeur and kind of ridiculous performance, kept you going to the class. It kept you going back there. It entertained you. It gave you some kind of um, fleeting aspirational hope with it. And it kept you kind of interested in where you were going on that career path. And last year we we had been through the writer's strike or just about coming up on the writer's strike at the time. I've been doing this for like almost 15 years, and it's just as hard a slug as everybody else has has had with it. And the movies that are hitting theaters lately are very monotonous. I have to review the movies for the paper every week, and I see every movie that hits the theater. And granted, there's plenty of good ones, but there's plenty of bad ones. And like when I saw The Room at the Cinema Arts Center, which will be back at September 18th, um, it really gave me a theater experience that I just hadn't had since like Rocky Horror the first time I saw it. It genuinely brought me so much joy and laughter. I don't know. I mean, I that's just my experience I had with it. I mean, it really like it reinvigorated me a lot when I saw it at the show that you premiered it with. And I encourage people to see it, when you hit their town because I mean outside of it just being a hilarious and enjoyable theater experience, you provide a lot of really funny commentary about what's going on there. Can you talk about like some of like the shenanigans that were going on set?
Yeah, it was really again, I had a great role because I was helping Tommy. I was a fan of Tommy and his work and his character. So I got to see all these people that had no idea who he was interact with him. And it was just so fascinating to watch someone have this vision and everyone be like, what? This does not add up. This doesn't make sense. Why are we doing it this way? He's like, because that's the way it's done. That's bottom line. So it was a really interesting character study. And all these years later, I'll see choices that were made that in the moment felt like, oh my God, we're gonna reshoot the Chris R scene for 3 weeks on a rooftop. Like, do people really care? And all these years later, I realized a lot of those were the right choices. I mean, there was an article that came out that talked about the VFX artists who did Batman and Avatar, I think, used the room green screen backdrop rooftop as like inspiration for Gotham.
That's hilarious.
So it's really it's really interesting to see all these years later, like all of a sudden you're seeing things that work that in the moment you didn't. So now when I approach anything creatively, I always have an open mind to whatever I'm doing.
I truly think it will stand the test of time. I mean, I think it's going to be shown in art house cinemas probably until I'm dead, or the industry. I mean, I don't know. One of the two is going to die first. Hey everyone, if you like this video and you want to see more, hit right down below, like and subscribe. And if you want even more Scareworks, visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/Scareworks.